Well, you will be interested, no doubt, to know that COVID's in the air. Everywhere you look around, COVID's in the air. Every sight and every sound. I just thought I'd pass on a word of warning about it. If you're in a position to lock people down and you're thinking about doing that, or you're one of the victims who gets locked down and you think you might try to escape the infection by running somewhere underpopulated, like the South Pole, for instance, you can forget it. Because at this very moment, as I speak, there's a South Pole COVID epidemic rampaging through Princess Elizabeth Polar Station, which is the Belgian sector. Now, here is the report on it in the Telegraph. This is a nice photograph, isn't it? And it shows, according to this, those are tents for scientists. Some time ago, not now, but tents, camping in the South Pole. No wonder they got COVID. Anyway, look, it says here, COVID reaches the Antarctic. Polar researchers report outbreak at remote station. And then Omicron triumphs despite Belgian researchers taking precautions and being miles from anywhere. Let's see. And this was a report filed on the 30th of December. Polar researchers in remote Antarctica have fallen victim to coronavirus despite taking strict health precautions, being fully vaccinated and miles from, they say, civilization. I'd say anywhere. 2/3 of the 25 staff based in Belgium's Princess Elizabeth Polar Station have caught COVID. What do you mean, the Le Soir? Le Soir newspaper reported, proving there is no escape from the global pandemic. I think that's probably amusing as it is. I hope nobody's seriously ill. But since it's Omicron, I doubt they are. But it does prove something, doesn't it? The Omicron outbreak happened despite all staff passing multiple PCR tests, quarantining and living in one of the most remote places in the world. All 25 researchers were fully vaccinated and one had a booster shot before leaving for the station. And one had a booster shot, and then before leaving for the station they underwent a PCR test in Belgium 2 hours before flying to South Africa. In South Africa, they quarantined for 10 days and took another PCR test. A further test was needed when leaving Cape Town for Antarctica, and a final one 5 days after that. I mean, you can't get more careful than that, really, can you? One person tested positive 7 days after arriving at the station on December the 14th. The person was isolated, but tests revealed 2 others had caught the virus. The 3 were evacuated on December the 23rd, but the virus has continued to spread. It's thought to be the Omicron variant because that is responsible for 99% of infections in South Africa. There are 2 emergency doctors at the station which will not allow any new arrivals until the virus dissipates. Belgium's Polar Secretariat has decided the research season will be shortened and that staff shall stay there until at least January the 12th, when new expeditions will arrive. Okay, I think this has more or less conclusively proven that it is impossible to escape COVID, especially the Omicron variant. We can assume with some confidence that Princess Elizabeth Polar Station is populated by a bunch of responsible scientists. It's an isolated research station. How much more of a controlled environment could you get? And that's the point. We've chased COVID round the world several times. We've thrown vaccines at it. We've improved our therapies. We even know a lot more about viruses because of the emergency work that's being done on this particular one. But the genie is out of the bottle. We can never put it back in. And no number of lockdowns, vaccinations and isolation is going to change that. Any country that's stopping people from living their lives isn't saving anything except perhaps their own face, of course. In Scotland, ruled by a big fish called Nicholas Sturgeon, and Wales, ruled by a big fish called Mark Drakeford, they're restricting all sorts of celebrations and have shut down all sorts of venues, with the obviously predictable result that large groups of Scots and Welsh are now boarding crowded trains and setting off for the land of the Sassenachs. And they're not only going to party like it's 2019 in crowded dance halls, discos and nightclubs, but then they're going to get back onto crowded trains and return to Scotland and Wales with whatever they picked up at the party. This will, of course, make sure that any infection picked up in one venue gets a chance at all the other people from other venues on the same train, and then they're going to bring it back to Scotland and Wales, together with the sneaking feeling that Mr. Drakeford and Miss Sturgeon and their governments are a set of wankers. You know that saying that a Conservative is a Liberal who got mugged? Well, I should think a Scottish Unionist is most likely a Scottish nationalist who had to take the train from Edinburgh to Berwick to celebrate Hogmanay. Meanwhile, spare a thought for the scientists in Princess Elizabeth Polar Station in Antarctica, who have learnt what we here on the internet already knew. COVID is forever, not just for Christmas. Or New Year, by the way. Happy New Year, everyone. I do hope that now, with a milder version of this virus circulating, we can all start to live again and tell our governments to stop interfering with our lives. Freedom! Happy 2022 to all.